That they don't believe you've been there for them. They don't feel your presence in their life. They don't feel your protection.
The kids were kidnapped from me. They were in my custody. She came back and stole the kids from me.
You're not the father of the baby anyway, and I don't need you in my life.
If she knew this was my baby, she's 100% sure. Then how come you didn't put my name on the birth certificate?
Honor, why
he doesn't have my last name? Why he don't have my last name?
So you never heard from her anymore after this?
I saw Ms. Wilson at my girlfriend's New Year's Eve party.
Oh, because you went on back to your girlfriend after that.
Of course, I was with my girlfriend the entire time.
Judge Lake introduces the case of Redmond Jr. versus Patterson, where Mr. Redmond is disputing the paternity of 2 teenage daughters despite owing $10,000 in child support. He emphatically denies the children are his, questioning the long delay in resolving this issue. You're not going to want to miss what happens next. Buckle up.
This is a case of Redmond Jr. versus Patterson.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Mr. Redmond, you currently owe more than $10,000 in child support for the defendant's 2 teenage daughters, LaQuandria Redmond and Kaisha Redmond, who you say are not yours.
Brace yourselves, because this gets wild. The conflict deepens as Mr. Redmond expresses his conviction that the children aren't his, citing his multiple jail sentences due to the owed child support. He presents a document from the court showing his outstanding debt, which is examined by the court. And just when you think it can't get any more heated, it does.
Over 19 years, I've been taking care of these kids, and Your Honor, I've been going to jail, and I know for a fact that these kids aren't mine.
You know for a fact you've gone to jail?
I've gone to jail because I owe more than $10,000. This is some from the courts where I owe over $10,000 in child support pay.
Let me see that paperwork.
Here's where the plot thickens. A dramatic moment unfolds when Mr. Redmond accuses Ms. Patterson of infidelity, presenting a photo of her with another man in a compromising situation. Ms. Patterson vehemently denies the allegations, insisting it's a fabrication. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for the next twist.
I never cheated on her.
She's untrustworthy, Your Honor. I've caught her cheating on me numerous amount of times.
Step forward so I can have you explain this evidence you have in monitor.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, as you can plainly see, her and her friend was in the bathroom and he had his pants down.
That is a lie.
To the bathroom, Your Honor, his pants was down and he quickly tried to pull them up and
that
she stood up.
That is a lie.
What?
Yes, Your Honor.
Guess what's up next? Shocking, right? The tension escalates as Mr. Redmond recounts discovering another man in his apartment, further fueling his doubts about paternity. He reveals placing a tape recorder in the bedroom to catch further indiscretions, but Ms. Patterson dismisses the recorded sounds as mere background noise. The stakes are high, and there's more drama to come.
This is a picture of me coming home from work, Your Honor. This was when we was married. I rode a bicycle in the cold to go to work. It was a tall, dark-skinned man walking out of my apartment.
That is not true, Your Honor.
Ms. Patterson, do you know anyone that looks like that?
No, Your Honor, I really don't.
So you're saying he just constantly accuses you?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be amazed at what happens here. Mr. Redmond describes catching Ms. Patterson in a compromising position with another man at her workplace, questioning her fidelity and the paternity of their children. Ms. Patterson defends her professionalism and denies the allegations. Stay tuned, because the courtroom is about to get even more charged.
You have one more picture. What is this?
I went to Miss Patterson's workplace, but at this point in time, at her job, find the location that they told me to go to.
Okay.
I observed Miss Patterson in the bed with another man.
Oh,
on top of the man.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, so this is you observing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you confront her?
I didn't confront her, Your Honor. I was so hurt. I walked away, got in my car, and left.
Are you ready for more bombshells? Judge Lake probes deeper into the reasons behind Mr. Redmond's doubts about the paternity of his second daughter, Kaisha. The couple's strained relationship and separate living arrangements at the time of her conception are discussed. What the daughters have to say next is absolutely heart-wrenching.
So, you said you had one more piece of evidence as to why you believe LaQuandria is not your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. We was in her hometown. I creeped up on her family's house. When I got there, Your Honor, I went round the back where they usually be, and I observed Miss Patterson drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, sitting on another man's lap.
You thought maybe he could be her father because she was having a relationship with him as well?
Yes, ma'am.
This next bit is truly moving. The daughters, LaQuandria and Kaisha, are brought into the courtroom. They express their feelings of neglect and absence of a relationship with Mr. Redmond, highlighting the emotional impact of the paternity dispute. Their testimony will tug at your heartstrings, and you'll want to see how their dad reacts.
We are here today discussing some paternity issues that are affecting your family. And I wanted to hear from you because the gentleman on the plaintiff's podium, Mr. Redmond, you believe he is your father, right?
Yes.
That's what you've been told.
Yes, ma'am.
Now watch as the tension reaches a new high. An emotional confrontation occurs as the daughters and Mr. Redmond exchange accusations and denials. The daughters articulate their feelings of abandonment and financial neglect, which Mr. Redmond attempts to refute, claiming a consistent presence in their lives. The courtroom is about to be shaken by the DNA results. Get ready.
I don't recollect me not being there for these kids, and I feel like they're being untruthful at the moment. I've been there for those kids. I never left those kids. My father has thrown them birthday party. I have done a lot for these kids, Your Honor.
Well, do you hear them say that they don't believe you've been there for them? They don't feel your presence in their life. They don't feel your protection.
The kids were kidnapped from me. They were in my custody. She came back and stole the kids from me.
Hang on, here come the results. The climactic reveal of the DNA results confirms.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Redmond, you are the father.
Hey, you need to apologize to
He
these
don't
kids.
need it.
You're not going to believe how this starts. The case of versus Crane kicks off with Mr. Scott stepping up to clear his name, claiming his reputation has been dragged through the mud by several women, including Miss Crane, who insist he's the dad of their kids. He firmly states he's already got a mini football team of 6 kids with 3 different women, but is adamant that Miss Crane isn't going to add to his team roster with child number 7. Just wait. The courtroom drama is about to heat up.
Mr. Scott, you say you are appearing in court today. Clear your name.
Yes.
You state many women, including the defendant, have dragged your reputation through the mud, claiming you are the father of their children. You admit to having 6 kids by 3 different women,
Yes, Your Honor.
but state that the defendant is not mother number 4 with child number 7.
Here comes a curveball. Miss Crane fires back, staunchly defending her fidelity during their time together and insisting without a doubt that Jaylyn is Mr. Scott's son. She drops a bombshell, revealing she discovered Mr. Scott was still very much married during her pregnancy, while Mr. Scott flips the script, accusing her of playing the field. Buckle up, because the truth train is just leaving the station.
You say you were always phased out and that Jaylyn is definitely his son. You argue Mr. Scott is the one who cheated and claimed that during your pregnancy,
not
you
true.
found out he was a married man.
Yes,
She's
Your
been
Honor.
cheating the whole time.
Never.
Ms. Crane, you insist that Mr. Scott has never even offered you a dime.
Never.
You're here to make a counterclaim against Mr. Scott in the amount of $1,000, the maximum allowed by this court.
Can you handle more? Watch as plot thickens with Miss Crane outing Mr. Scott for being married during their affair, a fact he clumsily tries to sidestep before admitting to a tangled web of lies and liaisons. This revelation leads to a fiery exchange about where Mr. Scott was sneaking around during Miss Crane's pregnancy, climaxing with her detective work on his phone records. And guess what? It's about to get even messier up ahead.
And you just said, Ms. Crane, that he was married.
Major negative. I've been major negative. I've been divorced since December 9th.
I didn't know
She knew
about
I had
none of the
kids, though.
Enlighten-
She knew I had kids.
Enlighten me. How did you? Your Honor, I was 7 months pregnant. I didn't know where Marcel was. He used my phone one time. He deleted all his calls. So I went back on the internet, went back to the research, called all the numbers he called, and found out he was married for 9 years.
That's true. I was
Thank you.
married. That's true. I was married, but I've been divorced since December 2009.
Just when you think it can't escalate further, it does. The heat rises in the courtroom as accusations about Mr. Scott's fidelity and honesty fly like wild fireworks. Miss Crane recounts a sketchy incident where she caught Mr. Scott at his ex-wife's place, sparking a heated denial and more finger-pointing about who did what during the pregnancy. Strap in, the next part is a real doozy.
He didn't
And
say
you
nothing.
7 months pregnant when this happened.
Yep.
No, that's not true at all.
And he lied about all of his kids. I didn't know he had no kids.
She lied because I got tattoos all over my body. I got all my kids' names on my
That
back.
don't mean nothing.
Everywhere.
Your Honor,
She
I
knew
didn't ask
my
him
kids'
nothing
names.
about no tattoos.
No, well, you want to talk about tattoos? What about the dude's name to your body?
What
that
about
you said
it?
it was your brother.
And?
But then come to find it's another dude that's holding the baby. I mean,
Your
come
Honor,
on.
we were not together. We were not
Okay,
together at the
okay,
time.
wait a minute now, miss some info I delved
Well, I'm
into.
not on the birth certificate.
This part is juicy. As the court tries to untangle this web, Mr. Scott defends his hit-or-miss fatherhood antics by blaming Miss Crane for keeping him away from their son. Miss Crane passionately recounts the emotional roller coaster caused by the paternity doubts, which deeply affected her decisions and well-being. Don't go anywhere. Revelations are about to drop like hot potatoes.
And then while she's pregnant, she had hickeys on her neck. And
Your
I didn't
Honor.
give her them hickeys. You know what I mean? And when she was pregnant, she didn't even tell me she was pregnant. I said, well, let me take you to Kaiser Permanente Hospital. She told me to go to the Kaiser Permanente in Lancaster, and she's at the Kaiser Permanente in Palmdale. Here, all my kids.
And so you're
I have
trying to
6
take
kids.
her to medical appointment.
Yeah, she wouldn't let me take
And
her.
she telling
told me
you
her
she's
sister
at one branch, you at the other other branch.
She said, oh, my sister dropped me off. She told me and said like, well, yeah, whoop-de-whoop dropped me off. That's what she said.
Brace yourself for the grand finale. As the session winds down, Judge Lake dives into the emotional and financial turmoil churned up by Miss Crane, underscoring the pressing need for clarity and responsibility in this convoluted paternity mess. The suspense builds to a fever pitch as they edge closer to unveiling the DNA results. Trust me, you'll want to see how this turns out.
As you were saying to him, like, father, or he's not the father, and then you go to his family, you
The
know,
only doubt
he's
he
not
should
the
ever have
father.
is when I found out he said some stuff, so I was like, you know what, Jalen's not yours, so I don't need my life.
Nah, you don't need to say
And
that.
that's because I was emotional. Of course I'm gonna say what I have to
So
say.
you're admitting that out of hurt, when you found that
Yeah.
out, you're not the father of the baby anyway, and I don't need you in my life.
If she knew this was my baby, she's 100% sure. Then how come you didn't put my name on the birth
Honor,
certificate?
why
How he
would
doesn't
I
have
put
my
his name
last
on the birth
name?
certificate?
Why
He's
he
been
don't have
married
my
for
last
9
name?
years.
And now, the moment of truth. Get ready for a wild reveal. The court reaches its boiling point as the DNA results are finally disclosed.
When it comes to 3-year-old Jalen Crane, Mr. Scott, you are the father.
Told you!
Right out of the gate, we've got a curveball. Wesley, a child with severe autism, is introduced, living primarily under the care of his loving grandmother, while knowing very little about his parents. The paternity test results, expected today, could significantly reshape his future. Stay tuned as the drama ramps up.
This is Wesley. He suffers from a severe case of autism. He's being raised by his grandmother and barely knows his mother and his father. The results of today's paternity test will help determine the course of his future.
Here comes a plot twist. Mr. Marsh, officially listed as Wesley's father on the birth certificate, drops a bombshell by claiming that the real father is actually the neighbor of Wesley's mother. Both potential dads have been tested, so buckle up as we're about to dive into the DNA drama.
You are listed on Wesley's birth certificate as his dad, but you claim his biological father is actually his mother's neighbor. Now, you both have been tested and we'll hear the results shortly. Now, Mrs. Maldonado, you are Wesley's grandmother and legal guardian.
Yes, Your Honor.
Things get a tad complicated here. Mr. Marsh lays out the tough restrictions on his visitation, confined to chilly outdoor meetings that have slashed his father-son time. His financial support comes through child support payments, though he's racked up quite the debt. The emotional thermometer is about to burst. Don't go anywhere.
I can come and see my son whenever I want to, and yet I have to see him outside. I'm not allowed inside the house, so I don't see a reason to put a 1-year-old child outside in the cold just for me to be able to see him or for me to be able to help out. I pay my child support. I pay $269 money in my arrearments. I'm $13,000 in debt because of it, but I still, whenever I have a job, I pay the state for child support.
You won't believe this twist. During a heartfelt recount, Mr. Marsh explains his decision to cease outdoor visits with Wesley, prioritizing his son's comfort over a forced relationship. The grandmother contests his story, highlighting a long-standing communication breakdown. The plot thickens just around the corner.
When you went by and saw him when he was 1 year old, you said this wasn't right for him to have to come outside for you to see it. So you made the decision that I'm just going to leave this alone. I'm going to pay my child support, but I'm going to keep my distance, and when he's 18, he can find me.
I didn't see a point of every time I went to go see my son to be threatened to be put in the ER if I walk the threshold of the door.
That
So
is
now,
incorrect.
Ms. Maldonado, is he being threatened when he comes to try to see?
No, he is not.
And now for another reveal. Mrs. Maldonado, amidst the ongoing courtroom battle, admits her uncertainty about Wesley's paternity despite Mr. Marsh's name on the birth certificate. She's holding her breath for clarity, and you should too, because the next testimony is a game changer.
You believe he is, in fact, Wesley's father?
That's what I have, Your Honor, because his name is on my grandson's birth certificate. I did not give birth to him. I can only go by what's on.
All right, so on the paperwork, he is listed as a father. In your mind, the way you operate, he's the father. So did you ever try to meet somewhere?
He did at a restaurant in town, and he did not show up.
As the stakes heighten, doubts swirl around Wesley's paternity. Mr. Marsh voices his suspicions about their familial resemblance, or the lack thereof, citing the mother's side's history of deception. Fasten your seatbelts. We're speeding towards an eye-opening witness statement.
He just does not look like me. All white. There's no any other kind of descent in my family. Jolene's half Puerto Rican. Jeremy's father is full-blood Puerto Rican. So, I mean, there is Hispanic descent in the family.
So when his mother was pregnant, were you ever told it could be anyone else?
I had Jeremy who cracked jokes about, oh, you might want to get a paternity test. Big joke around that Jolene cheated.
The tension escalates with Mr. Neely's explosive testimony. He backs up the family's doubts about Wesley's paternity, painting a not-so-pretty picture of his sister's honesty. As the family secrets spill, the courtroom braces for the next big revelation. Get ready for more jaw-dropping moments.
Do you believe that Mr. Marsh is Wesley's father?
Honestly, I do not believe he is.
Why is that?
Because my sister has had multiple friends, boyfriends. There you go.
Okay.
So
That your sister was with multiple men, probably during the time Wesley was conceived.
yes, and I forewarned Eddie that if you do not know it's yours, do not sign the paperwork.
Grab your popcorn. Here's the backstory. After her daughter mysteriously disappeared postpartum, Mrs. Maldonado stepped up as Wesley's primary caregiver. Her struggle underscores the family's chaotic dynamics and sets the stage for more upheaval. Watch out! The emotional roller coaster is about to hit a steep drop.
At that point, in April of 2008, signed a power of attorney that we took and went and had taken care of so that I had legal custody of Wes to take care of. Now, I did get a hold of my daughter before we came here, and she did give me a video state that she wanted you to hear.
Hi, I'm Jolene, Wes's mother. Edward Marsh is his father. He has been denying my son. Last time he saw him was the fall of 2008.
Finally, the moment of truth arrives with a startling revelation.
And whether Mr. Marsh or Wesley's mother's neighbor is his father, Mr. Marsh, you are his father.
Does that mean I get my rights to him?
Brace yourself for a wild start. Mr. Derensburg kicks off the hearing with a bombshell, claiming he's not the father of Ms. Wilson's 22-year-old son, Damone. He's determined to prove his case, hoping to erase his name from the child support bills and claw back over $20,000. The courtroom's buzzing, and you won't believe what's coming next.
Are seeking the results of a paternity test prove that you are not father of Ms. Wilson's 22-year-old son, Damone, who you say the defendant once told you was another man's child. You will return to court to sue Ms. Wilson $20,000 for unwarranted child support payment.
Things are heating up quickly. Ms. Wilson fires back, painting Mr. Derensburg as a master of deception, juggling relationships with multiple women while being both engaged and married. She insists he's the father of her son, challenging his narrative of innocence. Hold tight, because the details about their past interactions are just around the corner.
That Mr. Derensburg is a womanizing, lying, cheating, poor excuse for a man.
Yes, you are.
You claim that during your relationship he was married and engaged, I don't know how you do that, to other women.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can't make this stuff up. The discussion unveils a tangled web of relationships where Mr. Derensburg was not only married, but also separated and planning another wedding, all while dating Ms. Wilson's friend. This adds a spicy layer of drama to his claims. The next twist in their tale will have your jaw dropping.
You said you were married but separated and dating her friend.
I
Where'd
was
fiancé
separated,
come from?
but not divorced yet, and I was planning to marry the young lady that Ms. Wilson was friends with. My fiance, we had an argument, and I went out and I saw Ms. Wilson. Had a conversation, a brief conversation. We were in a hotel room.
Oh.
Did that really just happen? Ms. Wilson recalls the night that might have changed her life forever, including a fleeting encounter with Mr. Derensburg that led to her pregnancy. She admits to also being involved with another man at the time, which fuels Mr. Derensburg's doubts about his paternity. Stay tuned, because Mr. Derensburg's reaction is priceless.
So obviously, since Mr. Derensburg is here today, he doesn't necessarily believe that he is the father of your son. Were you also intimate with anyone else during that time period?
Yes, I had a boyfriend at the time who was...
The plot thickens. Mr. Derensburg voices his doubts about fathering Damone, citing their brief encounter and Ms. Wilson's other romantic escapades. He only learned about the child years after the fact, which only adds layers to the mystery. Up next, hear directly from Damone. It's a tearjerker and a half.
Well, first of all, we only had sex one time. She was promiscuous, didn't find out 2.5 years after she had the kid.
Never heard from her anymore after this?
I saw Ms. Wilson at my girlfriend's New Year's Eve party.
Oh, because you went on back to your girlfriend after that.
Of course, I was with my girlfriend the entire time.
Grab your tissues. Damone shares his poignant and limited interactions with Mr. Derensburg, filled with broken promises and deep-seated feelings of abandonment. His story highlights the emotional toll of Mr. Derensburg's inconsistent presence and outright denial of paternity. But the emotional roller coaster doesn't stop here. Next up, we dive into the wallet wars over child support.
He didn't tell me anything,
so you did it.
So it was fine.
You did it. Hear no evil. You
see
just
no
blocked
evil.
it out.
2.5 years went. Danita had the child. One of my fraternity brothers come up to me and asked me me, hey man, did you see your kid? I said, kid? Oh man, no. So my grandfather and I, we drove down to Danita's
To see about it.
Right, because, I mean, hell, kid.
Now we're talking money. Dive into the financial fray as the court examines the child support conflict. Mr. Darensburg challenges the deductions from his paycheck, claiming a case of mistaken paternity led to undue financial strain. But wait, there's more drama ahead as the confrontation heats up.
Because of that, they're taking money from me to repay back the state in which we live.
But
so
you were
I'm paying back.
identified during that time as the father.
Apparently so. I went to Georgia. I left.
Fasten your seatbelts. A recent fiery exchange between Damone and Mr. Darensburg brings old grievances back to the surface. Damone lays out his continued disappointment over Mr. Darensburg's failure to acknowledge or take responsibility. The revelation of the paternity test results up next will turn everything on its head.
When I first saw him, I was happy to see him. So I walked up to the car to show him, I'm a grown man now.
So you were still coming up to speak to him?
Yeah, I'm like, what's up, man? What's up? Who is you?
You said, who are you?
I didn't know the kid.
Yeah.
I did not know.
You didn't recognize.
I did not recognize this kid.
The moment we've all been waiting for, as the paternity test results are unveiled.
Mr. Darensburg, you are his father.